The air was thin, the wind biting, and the snow stretched endlessly in every direction, a vast, frozen desert where time itself seemed to have frozen. The team of researchers trudged forward, their boots crunching against the icy crust, their breath visible in the frigid air. They had been searching for weeks, following a faint signal that had pinged on their radar, a signal that shouldn't have been there, not in this desolate, uncharted part of the world. And then they saw it, rising out of the ice like a ghost from another era, the silhouette of a plane, its wings heavy with frost, its fuselage encased in a thick, crystalline shell. It was as if the ice had claimed it, preserving it in a tomb of frozen time. The team stood in stunned silence, their hearts pounding, their minds racing with questions. How long had it been here? Where had it come from? And most importantly, what secrets did it hold? As they approached, the sheer scale of the plane became apparent. It wasn't a small aircraft, but a massive, commercial-sized jet, its once gleaming metal now dulled by decades of exposure to the elements. The ice had formed intricate patterns across its surface, like nature's own artistry, but it was what lay beneath that ice that would soon send shockwaves through the world. The team worked tirelessly, chipping away at the frozen layers, their tools echoing in the eerie silence of the wilderness. Hours turned into days as they carefully cleared the ice, revealing more and more of the plane's structure. And then they found it, a gaping hole in the fuselage, jagged and torn, as if something had ripped through it with unimaginable force. The team exchanged uneasy glances, their minds racing with possibilities. What could have caused such damage? And what had happened to the passengers and crew? As they ventured inside, the cold seemed to deepen, the air growing heavier with each step. The interior of the plane was a time capsule, frozen in the exact moment of its final descent. Luggage lay scattered, seats were overturned, and personal belongings were strewn about, each item telling a silent story of the lives that had once filled this space. But it was what they found in the cockpit that would change everything. The flight recorder, miraculously intact, was still lodged in its compartment, its black casing barely visible beneath the layer of frost. The team carefully extracted it, their hands trembling with anticipation. This was it, the key to unlocking the mystery of what had happened to this plane. But as they began to analyze the data, they realized that this was no ordinary crash. The flight path, the final moments of the cockpit recordings, the strange anomalies in the instrumentation, it all pointed to something far more extraordinary, something that defied explanation. The world held its breath as the researchers released their findings. The plane, it turned out, had disappeared over 50 years ago, vanishing without a trace during a routine flight. There had been no distress signals, no signs of mechanical failure, no indication of foul play. It had simply vanished, as if swallowed by the sky itself. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As the team delved deeper into the wreckage, they discovered something that sent chills down their spines. A series of strange symbols etched into the metal of the plane's interior, symbols that matched no known language or script. They were intricate, almost otherworldly, and they seemed to tell a story, one that hinted at forces beyond human understanding. The researchers brought in linguists, historians, and cryptographers, but no one could decipher the meaning of the symbols. They were a mystery, a puzzle that seemed to defy solution. But the discoveries didn't stop there. As the team continued to explore the wreckage, they found something even more astonishing. A series of compartments hidden deep within the plane's structure, compartments that had been sealed shut, their contents preserved by the ice. When they finally managed to open them, they were met with a sight that left them speechless. Inside were artifacts, objects that seemed to belong to no known civilization, their designs unlike anything ever seen before. There were strange, metallic devices, their surfaces covered in the same mysterious symbols, and what appeared to be fragments of a material that defied all known laws of physics. The team's excitement was palpable, but so was their unease. What were these objects? Where had they come from? And what did they have to do with the plane's disappearance? As news of the discovery spread, the world was captivated. Theories began to emerge, each more fantastical than the last. Some claimed that the plane had been abducted by extraterrestrials, that the symbols and artifacts were proof of contact with an advanced alien civilization. Others believed that the plane had stumbled upon a secret government experiment, one that had gone horribly wrong. And then there were those who thought that the plane had somehow crossed into another dimension, a parallel world where the laws of physics were different, and where time itself flowed differently. The researchers, however, remained cautious. They knew that the truth, whatever it was, would be far more complex than any theory. As the investigation continued, the team made another startling discovery: a series of documents hidden within the plane's cargo hold. These documents, though badly damaged by the ice, contained detailed accounts of the plane's final moments, written by someone who had been on board. The handwriting was frantic, the words barely legible, but the message was clear. The plane had encountered something that had caused it to veer off course, something that had terrified the passengers and crew. The writer spoke of lights in the sky, of a force that had gripped the plane, pulling it into a vortex of darkness. And then, the final entry, written in a trembling hand: "We are not alone." The world was stunned. The discovery of the plane, the strange symbols, the mysterious artifacts, the chilling accounts, it all pointed to something beyond human comprehension. The researchers knew that they were on the brink of a discovery that could change everything, but they also knew that they were treading on dangerous ground. The truth, whatever it was, would not be easily uncovered, and as they prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something, or someone, was waiting for them, hidden in the shadows of the ice. The plane, now fully excavated, stood as a monument to the unknown, a reminder that there are still mysteries in this world that defy explanation. The researchers continued their work, driven by a relentless curiosity, but also by a growing sense of unease. They knew that the answers they sought could come at a cost, that the truth might be more terrifying than they could imagine. But they also knew that they couldn't turn back, not now. The world was watching, waiting for answers, and the researchers were determined to find them, no matter where the journey took them. And as they prepared to take the next step, they couldn't help but wonder, what else was out there, hidden in the ice, waiting to be discovered? The mystery of the plane was far from over, and the world would never be the same. The researchers stood in the shadow of the plane, their breath visible in the cold air, their minds racing with the implications of what they had just uncovered. The documents, the symbols, the artifacts, it was all too much to process, yet they knew they couldn't stop now. The world was watching, and the weight of their discovery pressed heavily on their shoulders. As they prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, a sense of foreboding settled over the team. The ice seemed to whisper secrets, the wind carrying echoes of voices long silenced. They were no longer just scientists. They were explorers on the edge of the unknown, and the line between discovery and danger was growing thinner by the minute. The first step was to analyze the artifacts more closely. The strange metallic devices, covered in intricate symbols, were unlike anything any of them had ever seen. The material they were made from was lightweight yet impossibly strong, resistant to both extreme cold and heat. When one of the researchers attempted to scan the devices with a handheld spectrometer, the readings were erratic, as if the objects were somehow interfering with the equipment. This only deepened the mystery. What were these devices? Were they tools, weapons, or something else entirely? And why had they been hidden aboard the plane? The team decided to transport the artifacts to a secure facility for further analysis, but as they prepared to move them, something strange happened. One of the devices, seemingly inert, began to emit a faint, pulsating glow. The researchers froze, their eyes wide with shock. The glow intensified, casting an eerie light across the ice. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The device was silent once more, but the message was clear. It was not as dormant as they had thought. As the team worked to secure the artifacts, they turned their attention to the symbols etched into the plane's interior. The linguists and cryptographers had made little progress in deciphering them, but one researcher, Dr. Elena Vasquez, had a breakthrough. She noticed that the symbols seemed to form patterns, almost like a map or a diagram. Using advanced imaging technology, she was able to create a 3D model of the symbols, revealing a complex network of interconnected lines and shapes. It was as if the symbols were telling a story, one that spanned time and space. But what did it mean? Dr. Vasquez theorized that the symbols might be a form of communication, perhaps even a warning. But a warning about what? The team was divided, some believing that the symbols held the key to understanding the plane's fate, while others feared that they were meddling with forces beyond their comprehension. Meanwhile, the flight recorder had been sent to a specialized lab for analysis. The data it contained was fragmented, but what little they could recover was chilling. The final moments of the cockpit recordings were filled with static, but amidst the noise, they could hear the voices of the pilots, their tone frantic and desperate. "What is that?" one of them shouted. "It's coming right at us." And then a deafening roar, followed by silence. The researchers played the recording over and over, trying to make sense of it. What had the pilot seen? What had caused the plane to crash? The answers seemed to lie in the static, in the gaps between the words, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't piece it together. It was as if the truth was just out of reach, taunting them. As the days turned into weeks, the team began to notice strange occurrences around the site. Equipment would malfunction for no apparent reason, and some of the researchers reported hearing whispers in the wind, voices that seemed to come from nowhere. One night, as they were preparing to leave the site, they saw something that sent a chill down their spines. A faint light, hovering in the distance, just above the horizon. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, pulsing with an otherworldly glow. They tried to approach it, but as they did, it vanished, leaving them in darkness once more. The experience left them shaken, but it also fueled their determination. They knew they were close to something monumental, something that could change the course of history. The breakthrough came when Dr. Vasquez discovered a hidden compartment beneath the plane's cockpit. It was small, barely large enough to fit a person, but inside, they found something that made their blood run cold, a human skeleton, its bones perfectly preserved by the ice. But this was no ordinary skeleton. The skull was elongated, its shape unlike any human skull they had ever seen. The team's forensic expert, Dr. James Carter, examined the remains and concluded that they were not entirely human. The bone structure was similar, but there were subtle differences, as if the skeleton belonged to a species that was closely related to humans, but not quite the same. The discovery sent shockwaves through the team. Who, or what, had this person been? And what had they been doing on the plane? As they continued to investigate, they found more clues hidden within the compartment. There was a small, leather-bound journal, its pages filled with handwritten notes and sketches. The writing was in a language they couldn't understand, but the sketches were unmistakable. They depicted the same symbols they had found etched into the plane's interior, as well as diagrams of the strange metallic devices. It was as if the person who had written the journal had been studying these objects, trying to understand their purpose. But the most chilling discovery was a single phrase, written in English on the final page. "They are coming." The words sent a shiver down their spines. Who was coming? And what did it mean for the rest of the world? The team knew they were running out of time. The weather was turning, and the ice was beginning to shift, threatening to reclaim the plane and its secrets. They had to act fast. Using the 3D model of the symbols, Dr. Vasquez was able to identify a pattern that seemed to correspond to a specific location, a remote area deep within the Arctic. It was a risky move, but they had no other leads. They packed up their equipment and set out, following the map that had been hidden in plain sight. The journey was grueling, the cold biting at their skin, but they pressed on, driven by a sense of urgency. They had to know the truth, no matter the cost. When they finally reached the location, they were met with a sight that left them speechless. Rising out of the ice was a massive structure, its surface covered in the same mysterious symbols they had found on the plane. It was ancient, its edges worn smooth by centuries of wind and snow, but it was clear that it had been built by intelligent hands. The team approached cautiously, their hearts pounding in their chests. What was this place? And what did it have to do with the plane? As they ventured inside, they found themselves in a vast, cavernous chamber, its walls lined with more symbols and strange, glowing crystals that pulsed with an otherworldly light. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal, and on it rested a single object, a metallic sphere, covered in the same intricate symbols as the plane and the artifacts. The team gathered around the sphere, their breath visible in the cold air. They knew that this was it, the key to unlocking the mystery. But as they reached out to touch it, the chamber began to tremble. the ground shaking beneath their feet. The crystals on the walls glowed brighter, and the symbols seemed to come alive, shifting and changing before their eyes. The sphere began to emit a low, humming sound, growing louder and louder until it was almost deafening. And then, in a flash of light, the chamber was filled with images, visions of a world that was not their own. They saw cities of glass and light, towering structures that defied gravity, and beings that were both familiar and alien. It was as if they were being shown a glimpse of another reality, one that existed parallel to their own. The visions ended as suddenly as they had begun, leaving the team in stunned silence. They had no words to describe what they had just witnessed, but one thing was clear. They had stumbled upon something far greater than they had ever imagined. The sphere, the symbols, the plane. It was all connected, part of a larger puzzle that spanned worlds and dimensions. But with this revelation came a new fear. If what they had seen was real, then the implications were staggering. They were not alone in the universe, and the beings they had glimpsed were far more advanced than anything they could have imagined. What did this mean for humanity? And what would happen if these beings decided to make contact? As the team prepared to leave the chamber, they noticed something else. A series of markings on the walls, similar to the symbols they had found on the plane. But these markings were different, more urgent, as if they had been made in haste. Dr. Vasquez studied them closely, her heart racing as she realized what they were, a countdown. The symbols were a warning, a message from the past to the future. Something was coming, something that would change everything. And the countdown was almost at 0. The team knew they had to act fast. They had uncovered a secret that had been buried for centuries, but now it was their responsibility to protect it. They carefully removed the sphere from the pedestal, knowing that it held the key to understanding the truth. But as they did, the chamber began to collapse, the walls crumbling around them. They ran, their hearts pounding, their minds racing with the weight of what they had discovered. They barely made it out alive. The entrance ceiling shut behind them as the ice reclaimed the ancient structure. As they stood on the surface, the cold wind biting at their skin, they knew that their journey was far from over. They had uncovered a mystery that spanned worlds, but they had also unleashed something that could not be contained. The sphere, the symbols, the visions, it was all part of a larger story, one that was still unfolding. And as they looked out at the endless expanse of ice, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something, or someone, was waiting for them, hidden in the shadows. The world would never be the same. The discovery of the plane, the artifacts, the ancient structure, it was all just the beginning. The countdown had started, and the team knew that they were running out of time. They had to find answers, to uncover the truth before it was too late. But as they prepared to take the next step, they couldn't help but wonder, what else was out there, hidden in the ice, waiting to be discovered? The mystery was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. The world was watching, and the truth was closer than ever. But with every step they took, they were venturing further into the unknown, into a world where the line between reality and imagination was blurred, and where the answers they sought might come at a cost they were not prepared to pay.